Hey there, Fit Fam. Welcome to the only podcast where we're breaking the mold and rewriting the rules. I'm here to debunk the myths, spill the tea, and serve a hefty dose of reality. No matter where you're at in your journey, we've got something for everybody. So buckle up because we're about to unleash the basics in the most unapologetic way possible. From shedding pounds to embracing your inner badass, I'm here to remind you that skinny is so last season and the basics are anything but boring. So grab your favorite piece of protein and your water bottle and get ready to be empowered, entertained, and educated because being a basics bitch has never looked this good. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Don't Call Me Skinny. Thanks so much for joining today. I'm excited to talk about this topic. I am back in the confidence corner. We are not in the crying confidence corner. That's what we said we were going to rename this the crying confidence corner after episode 2, but just kidding. So again, if you are enjoying what you hear, please screenshot and share this on your socials. This is how we get out, which is word of mouth. It's only done by you and sharing our shit. So please share our shit because we would really appreciate that.
Yeah, share our shit.
Share our shit. All right. Well, welcome back.
Hi, guys.
Okay. So this confidence corner, we are talking about, I think, a hot topic, a very common thing that we do, which is comparison. Confidence and the comparison game that we play. And how our social circle plays a role in all of this, because we originally had these as 2 episodes, but we decided to kind of connect them because they really truly do
relate. They go hand in hand.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, for one, obviously, social media. I'll take a breath. Because I saw on social media, on Instagram, someone posted like something about how, you don't really know what's going on. You don't really know someone or know someone's personality or really know them by seeing what they're putting on social media. So like 90% of that, like you don't really know. You're only seeing like 10%.
It's fake.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want to say fake, but
we're both on social media.
Yeah.
So that's the thing with what I throw down. I mean, I try and be authentic and as real and share. I mean, I don't get too personal because some things are private, but I also want to show. I want to be honest, and as much as you can in a social media world. But it's very, very easy, especially as a woman, especially as you're growing older, to compare yourself to other women. Mm-hmm. And especially in the business that I'm in, social selling, direct sales, whatever you want to call it. I've found myself as I was growing my business and learning things in the social media world, it's good to kind of do your research and see, okay, well, what is she doing? Because she's pretty successful. She's got a lot of followers. She, what is she doing maybe that I'm not doing that I could learn from? So I would do that. I would look from that perspective, but then what would happen is I would just find myself like comparing myself to that person. Like, well, I can't do that, or I'm not going to be as good enough at her at doing those reels, or, and so I would get down this rabbit hole, and then it would just make me feel bad. And then I would feel like, well, I'm just not going to do anything then.
Analysis by paralysis.
Right.
Paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it is.
So then I saw this thing from Mel Robbins, who I follow as well on there. And she said, if who you're following on social media is making you like feel bad about yourself, pretty much unfollow them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I physically would have to do that. And I still do that sometimes. If I find myself, we all get those moments where you're scrolling and you see something and you just kind of like dive in. And as a woman who, has been continuing to work on herself, her self-confidence, and building a business and all those things, I want to stay in my lane. Mm-hmm. I don't want to veer off into a different lane because then, I might crash.
You put the blinders on.
Yeah.
Got to put the blinders on.
So just kind of doing my own thing. And I would think I've been doing that consistently for the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. Because if you compare yourself to other people, it just can go downhill.
Yeah. So in my world, It's really difficult because people think that trainers should look a certain way.
Right.
Or they should be a certain size, or they should have 6-pack abs, or they should have XYZ. The expectations that we have as a trainer, which is why when I gained all that weight back in late 2022, early 2023, it was very hard for me, which is why I felt like a fraud, is because I was portraying like, I'm okay, life is great, but inside I wanted to literally die, not literally, but like honestly, just like, because I'm like, they are going to judge me so hardcore. We were talking about this too today on TikTok. I'm on TikTok and I stopped posting on there because I'll tell you what, TikTok is a different motherfucking beast than Instagram and Facebook. Okay. They do not hold back. They do not care about your feelings. They do nothing. Like, they are fucking little
Brutal.
Keyboard warriors.
I'm not really on TikTok very much.
Right. That's what our conversation was.
Yeah.
And it's a different platform. And so it got to a point where this last, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months, literally what I've done is just start calling out my own faults before somebody else can do it for me. Right. It's like, I know I don't look like your average trainer. Okay. Say, you can't say it because I've already said it.
Right.
You can't make fun of me because I already know. You can't hurt my feelings because I already hurt my own feelings. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, it's being careful, like, to, when we're talking about like how what you see a lot is real. That's why I created that podcast. That's why I talked about it on my podcast about feeling like a fraud, is because I'm like, here I am yapping on all this shit, telling everybody what to do. And it's like, I completely let quote unquote, let myself go. I didn't. Again, it's a whole story. If you want to go listen to it, go for it. But like, I did it under the guise of a coach. I did it under guidance. And the problem that I had was the fact that the coach kind of let me do what I wanted because I was a coach and I quote unquote knew better. But at the end of the day, guess what I am? Fucking human.
Right. But you could also look at it from a woman, say, somebody does want to work with you and sees that history or listens to that podcast. They could actually look at it as like, well, she's just like me.
Correct.
More relatable.
Correct.
Versus the beefy guy at the gym who you don't, relate to them as much. So it's not as comfortable because that's not how you see yourself.
Yeah. I'm not the beefy guy at the gym.
Right.
I'm the beefy girl.
You know what?
I get it.
I know.
Though. Yeah, I get it.
Let's not get into pronouns.
So I literally, that was a really hard time for me. And then I started becoming inauthentic on social media and not sharing a lot of things because I was embarrassed and because I was like, oh, I can't show my body now. And what are people going to think about me? And all this stuff and how it plays a role into the confidence that I had as a coach. And I will have to say that as a coach, ever since this happened in my business has suffered because I have not shown up as who I am, even in the shitty ass fucking times. You try to put on the brave face and you try to make it look like everything's fine and everything's normal and it's okay. Right. But the reality is it's not.
Yeah.
It's not normal, but you can't quote, that's air quote, can't.
We're doing it.
You can't say those things. You can't put those things out there because then you're judged for that. And that sucks. It's a shitty thing to be.
It is.
Bitches. Tripping on social media, man. Bitches be tripping out there. And that's just one element of social media too. I think that something that I don't know how this works with you, but like in my business and with people that I work with, a lot of people will look at somebody and go, well, that must be nice. That must be nice to look like that. That must be nice to have muscles like that. That must be nice to be that skinny. That must be nice to be insert whatever you want, without understanding the context of that person's been doing work on themselves for 15 years. They deserve that.
Right. Don't know the backstory.
Don't know the backstory of the social media people that you're looking at, judging essentially.
Right.
Like we all do it.
You can judge someone in literally 3 seconds just by looking at them. Yeah. You create an opinion about somebody else. I mean, we all do that. Yeah. It's human nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I literally talked about judging people for liking Taylor Swift.
She did.
It's the thing. It's fine. It's okay. I can still like you, but I'll judge you. It's okay. You know, but it's like you don't you don't see the histories. Like when we're talking about in the first episode, how you're like, I'm top 10 of my company. Somebody could look at that and be like, well, that must be nice. Man, how did she do that? Ooh, I wonder, she must have some magic spell or potion.
Right.
Not understanding what was the work that took to get to that spot.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, it's the same thing for, just like you said, you know, I feel like my brain just shut off. You guys ever have those moments? Another part of being in your 40s.
Yeah, welcome to your 40s, bitch. Like, you don't have no brain no more. Your brain just stops working.
For real. So what were we talking about?
Social media comparison. Knowing the backstory of somebody, though, like when you're maybe scrolling, you talked a lot about muting people. I mute fellow coaches, partly because we as human beings like to mirror people. We like, you know, you see something and that's why actually you yawn. It's actually part of your nervous system and it mirrors what somebody else is doing. They're not contagious. Yawns are not contagious, but we imitate what we see, right? That's sometimes why you might hear somebody one day like sound like they're from the South. Like literally people thought I'm from the East Coast, or I don't know what people think. They think I have some kind of accent, right? When I moved out west, they're like, oh my gosh, you sound like you're from New York. And I was like, no, trust me, I don't sound anything like I'm from New York. They're like, no, to me though, you do. And I was like,
yeah,
interesting. Okay.
That is weird.
Like where we hear New York, it's like, I don't sound anything like that. Right. But we do have this accent, right? Anyways, the point that I'm making is that sometimes you start mirroring how people say things, right? When I lived in Alaska, I hung out, everybody that we were stationed with was from the fucking South. Guess what I started saying? Y'all. Okay, y'all. Yeah, y'all. All right, y'all. I've been back here for 10 years? I no longer say y'all. It's you guys.
Yeah.
You guys. You guys. You guys. Right? It's a shift in how we mirror and how we do things. So anyway, back to your muting point. I mute coaches because while I want to get inspiration, like, oh, I never thought about doing something like that. Or, oh, that would be like a cool reel to like do on my own spin or my own take. Unfortunately, you start to imitate
than being original,
than being your own self.
Yeah.
And then it's like, that's not who I am. You know?
Yeah, I'll do that. I mean, I'll, find reels or whatever and get inspiration or kind of make it my own or make it funny. But then I also try and do my own original authentic posts and all of that.
Yeah, like peanut butter. Not being a protein.
I'm like, where is she going with that one?
But for real though, right? Like, and then you have now like where you can't even tell if what's being posted is real because of AI. I mean, you can kind of tell, but like there's so many filters out there. And then you look at somebody else and you're like, oh, I wish I could look like that. But is that person even like, did the person use a filter that you don't even know about?
Right. So it's like, how does, even for just like, and we're in this world, but let's just even relate it to maybe just one of our mom friends who is on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and she's doing her thing. And how she could even be comparing herself to even her girlfriends and their posts or their family, or like I would always feel like, I've had girlfriends who get like professional family photos taken of their family every single year. And it's like, we've done that once. And so now they do it every year. And so like, then I turn around like, well, am I a bad mom? Or like, should I be the family that's taking these professional family photos? Because like, I'm not going to have all these family photos down the road. And well, so-and-so has all these family photos. And it seems so silly. But like, I feel like as moms and as women, we do that even just generally, even among our girlfriends. And it's just, and I feel like it's, now that we're talking about it, it seems so silly. So I've just been trying to focus on like what works for me and my family versus trying hard not to compare myself to even some of my best girlfriends.
Yeah. And that can even go as far as like the relationship with your husband. Like, oh my God, they seem like they're just so on it, or they're so clicked every time they're together, without really maybe understanding like the back end. I mean, I know for a fact that there was so much going on behind the scenes of my first marriage that nobody knew about, because it was embarrassing as shit to talk about. And then even at that point, there were things that started to come to light throughout his shop, and like things started like becoming public, not because of me, but because of what he was doing and who he was doing it with. And so it became like this, like trying really hard to save face when you put on this, everything's fine. We're great.
Yeah, but you don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
Yeah. Until it starts potentially even coming to light. Like, and this is when, back in, 14 years ago, when social media was still MySpace. Like that was the big.
Oh my God.
MySpace was like the big thing. And that was what we did.
And also to even like comparing yourself to yourself.
Ooh, oh, this is such a,
because we talked about, and I feel like our episodes are kind of coming into one. So I don't know when we said this, because we filmed, or I keep saying filmed.
Well, we are
recorded
filming
an episode before this. But just like even looking at a picture of myself, even like 10 years ago. Now I'm comparing myself in a good way, in the sense of like, I look so much better now, and I feel so much better about who I am now than I was that girl then. But I feel like we do that now. Where we do that. We compare ourselves to how like maybe you do feel better now than you used to, or maybe you feel like you look worse than you used to.
Yeah. How about I wish I looked like now what I looked like in high school, because I thought what I looked like in high school is fat, but look at me now.
Right. So we talked about that too, like perception of like how she thought that I was this confident high schooler.
Yes.
And I did not feel that way at all. And that's awesome. It makes me feel good that you perceive me in that light. And
because again, she was always like, I think we always talk about like being like in that first episode, like how you put yourself together,
how you carry yourself.
Yeah. And she was always put together. Like, and she never looked like a homeless bum. Like I look like every day.
We hate the saying, fake it till you make it.
Hate it.
And not that I'm somebody who always puts on a brave face. Like actually I'm somebody like I've never been a good liar. Like you could read, like I could never lie to my mom. She would know
You're
it.
You're an open book.
Yeah.
I am too. Terrible liar.
Terrible. So it's so easy to compare yourself to yourself from back then. And so my wish would be for people who are listening and for women out there to just to like embrace what you have going on, and don't compare yourself to try not to compare yourself to other women on social media, or even yourself, or even your neighbor next door, or your best friend, when it's so easy to fucking do.
Yeah. Because
you don't know what they're going through. Even your best friend, maybe you don't even always know what's going on.
Correct.
And internally,
Correct.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And I think, something that I, like my own personal journey throughout this process was the person that I had been for so long before I started to make this shift about 8 to 9 years ago did a job for me. Like that person, that was constantly judging of herself, was constantly mortified of herself, embarrassed about herself. And I used that food to cope with all of those emotions. She did a job for me. This is somebody that, that version kept me safe through a really nasty divorce, through a really decently shit ass marriage, through when my mom got sick and I, moved back home at 29 with 2 small children. And I thought, what the fuck is my life going to be like? Like, holy shit, And so it's like that person, that version of me got me here.
Yeah.
And instead of going, oh, shame on that girl. It's like, thank you.
But you wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for her.
Yeah, thank you. So like, I think that that's a really important piece of this process, that we are who we are in that season for a reason.
Right.
That was a rhyme.
And I talked to another girlfriend who we were talking about just, growing and relationships and being in your 40s, and she's gone through a divorce and she's married again, and how like, well, she's like, well, we're not supposed to be the same person that we were when we were 25 or 30 or 35.
No, you're not the same. You're not the same person at all.
No. And that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Like I get a lot of, I just want my body pre-baby body back. I want my pre-baby body back.
Yeah.
I just need my pre-baby body back.
Actually, my body's better.
Thank you. Same here. And I understand for those that's not the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That might not be the case. However, you can never get your pre-baby body back. Like, it's not real. It doesn't exist. I don't really care. Even people who, quote unquote, snap back and, they just look like they never even had a baby, right? A lot of times those women were probably already pretty healthy and fit going into their pregnancy. That is typically what happens. Or they have some badass fucking genes. And you can't.
But it's not the norm.
It's not the norm, right? But the point is you can never have it back because your body will never be that body again. It's not supposed to be that body again. It's literally grown a human and birthed a human it doesn't matter how. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like everybody that wants like, oh, I just want my pre-baby body. It's like, I mean, I get it, but like, it's not happening.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I try and do with what I do, is just showing like a real woman who has had 2 kids, who, has been struggled with weight loss and gain, all that kind of stuff, with this clothing line that I sell.
Yeah.
And helping inspire women to kind of like figure out a way that they're gonna wear these clothes that's gonna help best serve them to make them feel good about themselves.
Yeah, in the current
now, not like comparing themselves about, I used to look like this in black leggings,
right?
And now I look like this.
Yeah,
you look freaking awesome. Just own it.
Yeah, I will say like I obviously spend a lot of times in Facebook groups that are fitness related, and so many times people will post a picture and they're like, how can I get rid of this? And how can I rid this on my body? And after I had kids, this thing grew off the side of my torso. Like, what the fuck, And it's like understanding like your genes really dictate how your body is shaped, where your body gains fat. And it also dictates where your body loses fat, right? So we cannot spot reduce. We can't target areas. We can target areas for growth, for muscle, but we cannot like spot reduce. Like, it's like somebody today posted about how to get rid of their mom belly. Somebody's like, well, what core exercises are you doing? And how many crunches? Okay, crunches are not getting you abs. Core work is beneficial for moms postpartum, and postpartum is anything after you've had a baby. You could be 22 years postpartum for the record. Okay. So it's like some of those things can be beneficial, but like the one I see the most are hip dips. Where your hips actually like sink in, right? People are like, how do I fix this? That's your motherfucking bone structure. You ain't fixing shit. You're not changing it. You can't do anything. You can try to build that area, but it's like people like, much like probably a nose job or a boob job or whatever else, where it's like they're trying to fix these things about themselves that are like innately who they are. And I'm not judging people for doing either of those things, but it's also like, love yourself as you are.
Right. And that's what that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing this now.
Yeah.
Is why we're talking about it.
Yeah. This is wild. And I say that from a place of that always was me and still sometimes can be.
Yeah. I mean, I have fat on my back that like, I joke that like those fat cells are like, fuck you, bitch. We're not moving a fucking inch. And it's gotten less and less, but it's just like, man, why won't that change? And so versus me always judging it all the time, I'm just trying to like, that's accept it.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I always lose weight first in my face.
Yeah.
And last in my belly area. last in my under, like where my bra sits area.
Oh yeah.
And my underarm area. Like those are just the places that, and that's typically a lot of women struggle. I will say you do get the hormonal fat. That can change. This is real. As your hormones change, you can get that belly fat, but a lot of that still stems from your overall total health. So if you are not a healthy person and you're not taking active steps to change that, then that's where it's absolutely going to go. You know, and you can't spot reduce it and you can't balance your hormones to fix it. You have to change your life, you know. But let's talk about the bigger piece of this in your social your social circle. Say that 65 times fast.
Yeah, which we kind of touched on a little bit when I was talking about like your best friends or girlfriends, or comparing yourself to, you know, your girlfriend who seems to have like the perfect life with her marriage and her kids or whatever.
But let's talk about like nitty gritty, like past relationships and parents and siblings.
Yes. So your childhood experiences.
Yeah. Or even like young adult, because my childhood bled into my young adult.
Yeah.
Sadly. I say that like with a laugh, but it's like, unfortunately, like my big elevated trauma, if you will, was from the time that I could remember having siblings until I was 29 years old and probably closer to 30. And that's how far mine goes, like with my social circle and not picking people in my social circle that were helpful. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, also too, I mean, you know, I'm sure many of us can say that you're not really like you're I'm trying to say like your the amount of friends that you have gets smaller and smaller and smaller as you get older. Well, for one, because you personally, like, my time is fucking precious. And so I want to be able to spend it with people who want to spend it with me back.
Yeah.
Right.
Value it
and like support you and, you know, do something for you in your life, you know? And so I don't know where I'm going with this train of thought, but I was just thinking about like friendships and even those that are in the same type of realm as me in terms of direct sales and social selling, or maybe you just have similar type of business. Maybe you have a business on Etsy or whatever it is. The people that actually support you the most, and I'm not dissing my family and friends. That's not what I'm saying here, but the people that support you the most are complete fucking strangers.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes a hard reality for those that are in this world.
Yeah.
Because you're like, what the fuck? You're not going to help support me in my business. But, you know, Sally from Omaha is going to... Sally. Yeah, I just made it up. You know what I mean? Because I've met so many women throughout the entire United States. I've met women in Australia and Canada. And some of those ladies are the biggest supporters I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And it's been also a huge blessing, but it's also very eye-opening as well. Because maybe the person who you thought was a really good friend of yours, or maybe even it's a family member. And if my sisters are listening, I'm not talking about you.
Asterisk.
My family is very supportive, but it's eye-opening to be like, oh, well, okay, they're not who they thought that they were. And that also can go as far back as growing up and even as a young woman and like the standards of what you're supposed to look like. Like I always felt like I was the fat friend.
Yep. Ditto.
And, you know, my best friend was always smaller.
Ditto.
You know? And I had glasses and curly hair. And I know what the fuck to do with my curly hair, even though Sarah thinks that it was always so pretty.
I do.
I didn't know how to style it.
It's perception.
You know? But it's like all those little things like play a role of like molding you into the person that you become.
Yeah. And also create your experience. Like they're part of your experiences that start to dictate even your actions and what you choose to do and what you choose not to do.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, I know for me, it sounds like you had great, decent siblings. My siblings, well, that's a different ball of wax and probably a whole different episode we could get into. Let's just say vicious, blunt, kind of mean. I was constantly made fun of by my siblings I don't think it's because I was the youngest always. Maybe part of that was that. But like for me, it was like anything about my body was constantly commented on, always commented on. So like my siblings would constantly make comments about my belly always being bigger than my boobs. Like that was the joke. The other joke was like, oh my God. So I tried to hide my body, right? I tried to hide my body. And then the other joke became more like, oh my God, when she has sex, she's just going to cut a hole in a sheet because she's never going to let anybody see her body.
That's horrible.
So these are the identities that I started to take on that did in turn create problems in my relationships because I was extremely self-conscious.
Body acceptance, getting naked in front of someone, having sex.
Like, that was awful.
Yeah.
It was the most awful experience ever. Like, I was like, this is terrible. And all I could do was have them in the back of my head. And that's all that played in the back of my head were those kinds of comments of, and it was a multitude of comments. Like those are just two obviously that really stand out, you know? They still, I'm 41 years old. They still talk about the sheet. They still talk about the sheet.
Have you ever said to them to stop to
no
stand up for yourself?
What am I going to say?
Stop fucking talking about that.
And they're going to go, we don't fucking care. Like, you know, part of my family.
Yeah, they are pretty blunt, as I remember as a child or high school, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's like what you get is what you see with them, you know, and that can be really difficult. And that created problems in my relationships. And then, you know, even with my first marriage, there was a lot of cheating, which makes you feel unworthy, unloved, not good enough. You don't deserve it. You don't, you know, there was like, why am I not good? And you know, why not just leave? Like, you know what I mean?
Do that with somebody else.
I just, you know, so there was a lot of that created problems. I even had a really good conversation the other day, shit you not, with my friend Jetta. And we had brunch last week and she literally looked at me and she goes, who hurt you as a kid? Who hurt you? Because I'm ready to kick their ass. And I was like, you have no idea. You know, so it's like understanding those things. And I talked a little bit about this in the first episode that we talked about. I turned to sarcasm. I made a joke out of everything. Again, it's very similar to what I was talking about. Like, I'm going to call myself out before you can call myself out. I'm going to call myself fat.
Defense mechanism.
Yep. Before you get to call me fat, I'm calling me fat. I don't really care. Like I'm going to say it first so that I'm not giving you the opportunity because that's kind of the house that I grew up in. That's what I had to do to survive was to call out my own faults before I got made fun of.
Right. Oh man.
It's wild, isn't it? And all of that. And I'm sure that there are people listening that have experienced far worse than that, you know, and it's not a comparison game, but it is this is why. This is why it's so difficult. Then, you know, when we were talking the other day about, well, why is it so hard to accept a compliment? That's why.
That's why. It comes from having those comments said to you when you're younger or not feeling like you're good enough and being judged and your feelings are hurt and they stick around.
Yeah. Words are a lot more powerful than people think. And they have meaning behind them. It's like,
especially when they're coming from people who are the closest to you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
it's just like some dumb kid.
Yeah. Keyboard warrior.
You know, some stupid middle school boy calling you a dumb bitch or fat or whatever. I mean, those are also hurtful. Yes. Not saying that those aren't as a kid, but when it comes from somebody who is super close with.
Or that's supposed to love you.
Yeah. It hurts worse.
Yeah. You know, that is supposed to. And I will say like my parents never commented on like my weight. My parents never did.
But But when they heard those things from your siblings, did they ever stick up for you?
Well, that becomes a whole different gambit. You see, my nickname in my family is Princess.
Oh.
Because I got everything I wanted. According to my siblings, they got nothing and I get everything. And so there was this whole stigma of like, well, if mom and dad stick up for me, then they're doing it because she's the princess and she's the most loved and she's the most liked and she gets everything she wants. And this is just another prime example of that. So again,
so then they would just make you feel bad. So that they would say things like that to you.
Yeah. So it became,
because they were really jealous.
If they stuck up, if my mom and dad said something about it, then they would, oh, see, here we go again. Can't say anything to the little princess because, God forbid. Whoa. Yeah, shit like that, And again, when we talk about like, this is back in the 90s, there is no social media. But man, when you don't know what's going on behind the curtain, like you don't see what, and this goes for like even, my kids that I'm trying to teach now, it's like there's this one kid at my kid's school that's kind of like, it appears to have some issues. Okay. I'll just put it like that. And I'm like, Jaden, there's something bigger behind the curtain that you can't see. So why this person is this way?
Right.
Like, she said that one of the kids on the other bus was telling him the other day to like turn the fuck around and stop fucking looking at me. And did I tell you that you could fucking look at me and all this other stuff? And like, she's really mean to this kid on the bus. And it's like, it's terrible, because that girl I already know has some health things going on, which is fine again, but it's like, she's projecting that onto this other kid who probably has some bullshit going on. And it's just like, you never see what's behind the curtain. You never see what's really happening outside of what you can see. That's hard.
It is hard. It's hard because you can get wrapped up in that, and it's just hard. It's hard to give people the grace.
Yeah, and let me tell you what.
Giving yourself grace.
Oh gosh, that's a lot of the work. The most work that I do is I always tell my clients, have some grace and patience with yourself. But when we are so hardcore judged by other people, how do we not hardcore judge ourselves?
Right. I mean, even as like a mom, like you feel like you have to do all these things. And how come for some reason, if I want to take an hour and lay on the couch before I have to go get my kids from school, that should be okay if I want to have rest time. But for some reason, we're probably laying there and we're thinking of all the fucking things that we should be doing. Emptying the dishwasher. Okay, there's laundry that needs to go in the dryer. It's probably been sitting there for 12 hours.
Probably have to rewash that.
Did I take the chicken out for dinner? Like, you have all these things, it's just so easy to get wrapped up into comparing yourself to like, the neighbor down the street who appears that she has it all together, or even your best friend, or maybe even your own mom who ran a household. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like it's really important that we stay in your lane and you give yourself the grace that you need to, because it's so easy to compare yourself to other people. Where
does one find the grace?
Because
that's hard. It's easy to say, be patient and graceful.
Yeah, of course.
It's easy to say. And this is something I say all the time. Like I said to my clients, find some grace and patience with yourself. And I always try to flip it. What would you tell your friend? If what you just said is something that your friend said to you, what would you tell them? Would you tell them that they're a big piece of shit? Would you tell them that they're fucking dumb? Would you tell them that they're not worth it? Would you tell them that they don't deserve these things?
Like, speak to yourself as you would
somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that grace and patience can at least start. Like, what would you tell somebody else? What would you tell me? What would you tell me?
I would say it's okay if you need to have rest time, and the laundry can wait.
Right.
You'll figure out dinner later, whatever it is. If that's what you need, then go for it.
And I don't think that women are really good, even women that don't have children. I don't think that we are good at slowing down for ourselves.
Right.
I think it's part of our innate nature, which is kind of sad, but nice, but kind of sad. Unless you're really working towards it, is to constantly do. Because anything else, like I know me personally, if you are not up on the weekend, by the time dad got home from work or whatever, you're lazy.
Mm-hmm.
You're lazy.
Oh yeah, I've heard that word.
You're lazy. So, it's where like now I live in an environment where my husband tries really hard. He's like, sleep in. I can't. Sleep in. I'm like, how do you just sleep in like this? And I just lie in bed and I'm like you, like the laundry needs to get done. I could be already at the gym by now, and I could be home from the gym by now, and I could be all these things by now.
I have no problem sleeping in, so I can't relate to that. But
right. Yeah,
I've been really trying to like slow down, and managing our time, I think, is really, really hard.
So yeah, typically the inability to slow down is a trauma response. It's the inability to sit with yourself. We kind of talked about that. Yeah. The inability to, even take 30 seconds and just like breathe for a minute. Mm-hmm. This is the work that I do with clients, because it's like, this is why you reach for the sour cream and cheddar bag chips.
Right.
And just go to town. And then you like are in a foggy daze and don't realize that the whole bag is fucking gone until it's gone. And you're like, shit, what'd I just do? It's because you don't take 30 seconds and fucking stop and think for a minute, like breathe for a minute. It's just naturally how we start reacting and responding. And that's a nervous system piece. We do a lot of things out of dysregulation, but a lot of that is because of the trauma and our experiences that have made us the way we are. If our body is reacting in that way, it's trying to save us. It's trying to help us. And we look at that as like a terrible thing, not realizing like, no, actually our body's doing its job. Mm-hmm. Like it's doing what it's supposed to do. But the fact that it has to constantly do it, that's the problem.
Right.
Like literally there is no bear chasing me. I just can't slow down. I just can't stop. I'm living this fight or flight or freeze mode I can't get out of. And it's like, how do I get out of this spot? That's all neurological and nervous system work.
Right. Which comes, from our history.
Yes. It's all like stored. I mean, they even say that they're stored trauma in like, C-section babies or, birthing stories that are really dramatic or traumatic. Mm-hmm. Like that, I often think that Jaden gets really bad migraines. I really think that they probably stem from birth. Because, just of her birthing experience. It wasn't like a normal one. It was an emergency C-section. Mm-hmm. So she has a lot of potential head trauma. Yeah. So there's a lot there. And I think this is the other element too. When we don't know about these things, we look at things very surface level. Mm-hmm. And we just like, God, what's wrong with you? Why are you this way? Like, why can't you get it together? Instead of being like, what is going on deeper? Like, There's got to be something more here than what's on the top.
Man.
She said, man. Did you ever have, like, what was your relationship like with your family? Like, when you were growing up, like your siblings and stuff?
Well, let's see. So I have two older sisters, and then no, just the two, not and then. So my parents got divorced when I was going into 9th grade. And then my sister, Rebecca, moved away to California, I think when she was 18, and she's 6 years older than me. So that was about right. So, my sisters were always, really, we got along really well. And my sister Sandra kind of like, she's 9-10 years older than me, kind of treated me as like her own kid, and Rebecca, I would say, was a little more nitty gritty, a little bit more, I had to share a room with her, a little more, I don't want to say mean per se, but I was probably always looked at as like the baby. I'm always seen as the baby. I feel like even still today, I'm always seen as the baby. Like you can never like change from that identity, even though you're 42.
Nope.
So if you're the oldest, you're the middle kid, you know, or the baby. And even like among like family friends or it's like, isn't this so weird? Like, let's just say like you go to, this has happened to me, like a close family friend has a party and like your whole family comes and you've known these people for years. And it's like, you are who you are, but then when you get into that social situation, you like, I feel like I would become like the baby again. Like I could only be seen as like the baby sister.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like you, like identify so much with that labeling when you're around certain people. And it's so strange. And I feel like that still happens sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, I am so much more than just like Rebecca or Sandra's baby sister. You know?
Ah, you got that too.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I was
Like,
always introduced.
Hi, I'm actually a person. Like
I have
I'm
a name.
Vicki, and I have like so much going for me. Like that's not, I mean, yes, I am that person, but I just feel like.
And it's really interesting that you say that because that is exactly how my one sister that you know very well or knew very well, that's how she introduces me. This is my baby sister.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I have a fucking name.
Uh-huh.
You know?
So I think my sisters do that. This is my younger sister. And so the word baby isn't used anymore.
Oh,
but
it is in my family.
But I just remember having those moments even, you know, back then. Ooh, I hit the microphone.
I do it all the time.
And it's just like when someone says that, you just kind of like go back into feeling that way. It's really strange.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really strange feeling. But like I told you, I felt like I was always like the heavier friend. And even looking back, you know, back now, and even I feel like my sisters even said this, like, I wish I was the size I was back then, because your perception of how you see yourself is so skewed versus how may others see you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of how you know, your reflection in the mirror.
Which is why
And
it's
that's
really
tough.
Easy to compare yourself because what you really see, is that really your reality? Is that really what you look like? What you think you see when you look in the mirror? Or is that like your own version of what you think you see in the mirror?
Mm-hmm.
Like how real is that, you know, versus what other people see?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, like we talked about, like with my husband, you know, and the compliments thing that we mentioned the other day. And it's like, it's really easy to like, somebody else may actually see you and really truly believe the things that they're saying about you. And you're like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Because you don't see yourself that way. You don't see yourself the way somebody else perceives you, no matter what, you know?
Mm-hmm. And that affects us emotionally of how, like, as you grow into a woman and go to college and then get married, you know, and then we have a hard time accepting compliments and seeing ourselves in the way that maybe even your spouse sees you.
Yeah. That's why I call my husband dumb. I not really, but I feel that way, you know. To say that I don't feel like that is silly. It would be a lie. To say that I don't feel like I think that's dumb, or I don't see what he sees, or like, stop, got it, okay.
But like maybe he also feels that way. I feel like it can also be flipped around, and men need verbal
Yes,
kudos too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like it's important that they receive compliments as well, because I don't think men necessarily can take compliments very well either.
Right, agree.
So it's not just always about woman, and our feelings all the time, which they are very important, and we are. But in a relationship, I feel like you gotta. If you're receiving it, you should also be giving it.
Yeah, it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Do you think that the love language plays a role in any of like how you give compliments?
Yeah, I feel like everybody has their own love language. Like some people are more like physical touch type of people. So that might be like in my relationship with my husband, I like touch and he doesn't really that much.
Yeah.
You know, and then it could be the opposite where I've talked to a woman where like, you know, my husband is so touchy-feely, but I don't want to be touched.
That's me.
Like, I want you to grab my ass. Like, I want to be in the kitchen and I want you to come and slap my ass.
Yeah.
You know? Plus, I have bomb ass leggings on. I know my ass looks good.
Just do it.
You know? So I think, love language has a huge part of that. And then having that conversation with your husband or your partner or whatever to understand, you know, what rocks their boat, like what gets them, you know, because it's not going to be this, it may not be the same.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of how it works in a relationship. One is somebody who, you know, wants the touchy feely, and another person may just be more like verbal, or they show their affection towards you by maybe taking your car to get gas in it. You see what I'm saying? So there's little actions that they may do that shows you that they love you, but they may not verbalize it very well or touch you as often as you should. But if you are a fucking woman who needs that,
right,
you need to speak up about it. There was a thing I put in my story, and it was kind of funny. God damn it, I wish I had it still. But it was like, life is too short not to speak up about what you want in your relationship, in you're in the bedroom. There was something else, and then the final one was, and on your pizza. Like, it was funny. And then I was like, pineapple, please, because sometimes people think that pineapple doesn't belong on pizza.
It does not belong on pizza.
We can't be friends.
I'm ending this recording right now. After 51 minutes, we're out.
For me, as I've come into my 40s, I'm like learning to now, like, I want to speak up about all those things that I want.
Yeah.
You know, because as I said earlier, maybe it was the previous podcast, I don't remember now, like, this next phase of my life is like, it's my era, it's me time, it's my era.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a mom. Yes, I'm taking care of my kids. But, like, I want to make it my own now, and I'm going to speak up for what I want, and I'm going to speak up. If I want pineapple on my pizza, I'm going to say I want it.
Yeah.
If I want you to slap my ass, I'm going to tell you that's what I like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just think it's really important. And then that goes in with, like, the confidence aspect. Like, speak up for what you want.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so important. I think we're just so attuned to, like, that we have to be mute.
Yeah.
And just keep it to ourselves.
Yeah.
You know? But F that.
F that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my husband is a touchy-feely language.
You're not.
I am not.
Yeah.
I do like hugs, and I like to be held. I like those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. I don't always want my butt touched or my boobs grabbed or my this, that, whatever. Like,
well, time of the month also plays a role in that too. For me.
Yeah, that's fair. For me, a lot of it is being overstimulated throughout my day. By the time 5 p.m. comes, like, if I swear to God, my whole skin are just sometimes on pins and needles, and I'm like, it doesn't feel good. It feels ick. Mm-hmm. And it's not because of who it's coming from or that it's even happening. It's just, it doesn't feel good to me. Yeah. And so it's like, okay. Right. And so, but conversating about those things, like this even happened last night. He's like, are you overstimulated? It'll just ask me, where are we at? Like, where are we at here?
On a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah. Where can I go right now? You know, that's like what he'll essentially do, which means he's listening.
True.
And he's respecting that piece, right?
Yeah.
I am a doer. I am a acts of service. I will make your lunch, make your dinner, get all the groceries, fill your gas tank. Make
That's
sure you
how
have,
you show your love and affection.
Yeah. Like, if I don't make Will's lunch, he knows.
You're pissed.
What the fuck did I do?
Yeah. Watch out, Will.
He's like, where my sandwich at? Did you not make my literally that's what he'll say. Like, did I do something wrong? Like, where are we at here? You know? Because he knows. Because, like, if I don't make his lunch, and he'll tell me all the time, I can make my lunch. I said, I know you can. But, like, he's like, well, I mean, if you want to do it, go ahead. And it's like, that's what I want to do. Like, that's just how I show. It's even my kids. I take care of them. I take care of their things. I make sure they have everything that they need. I don't, that is how I show them that I love them, is by just doing things for them. Mm-hmm. Not because I, want them to be like, Mom, thank you so much. It makes me feel good.
Right.
I feel good about those things. Right. So it's like, and then communicating that's what you need. Mm-hmm.
Because when you start communicating that about what you need, then it gives you, it's empowering, and And then it becomes more comfortable too. Like if you're scared to talk about stuff like that with your spouse, you know, and to speak up, I mean, it can be really hard and scary, but you'll just feel so much better afterwards. And it's an empowering thing to do. And then you build your confidence for, you know, wrapping this all together.
Yeah.
As a fucking woman and as a human being.
Yeah. As a wife, as a mom, as a everything, like all the hats that you roll, a career woman, all the hats that you play, because we talked about that. We wear a lot of hats.
Yep.
You know, as women, we do a lot of different things, and being able to say, this is what I need, this is what I don't need, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. It is an empowering piece. I always call it taking the driver's seat back.
Yeah.
You know, stop being a fucking passenger in your life.
Yeah.
Like fucking get in the driver's seat and start fucking driving your car. After your husband gasses it up. No, just kidding.
Yeah, please.
Or I'll gas it up for you because I enjoy.
I hate getting gas.
I enjoy. I will say though, when Will worked overseas, I never got gas when he was home. It was like, because I always had to get gas, like when he was gone overseas.
Yeah.
So like when I came home, I never had to get, he always filled my gas tank.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
It's little things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Find you one of those. I didn't find one of those the first time around.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't get your own gas, bitch. Oh, the good times. All right. Anything else we wanted to talk about before I think we hit everything.
I think we did.
Okay.
On this one.
On this one. We still have more coming though.
We do.
I'm excited. So
thanks for listening and sharing. And
yeah, if you like this.
I hope you're loving me as a guest.
Because she's coming back.
Yes. I'm not going anywhere.
All right, you guys. Again, if you enjoyed what you heard today, please make sure you take a screenshot, share it, and we will catch you on the next episode of the Confidence Corner.
Bye-bye.